Right, hello. Thank you very much for inviting me to come and talk today. So I've got a short presentation, not technical, and then after the presentation, what I'm looking for is a Q&A, more of a conversation to talk, hear what you guys have, your thoughts are and what you'd like to do, what the TPF will do for you. So the Perl Foundation. Who hasn't heard of the Perl Foundation? Is there anyone who's not heard of it? So I assume you all know who the TPF is. So yet another society is its legal name. Around 15 or so volunteers, operates from North America, and this is the official Wikipedia and TPF statement of what TPF does. So let's look at what TPF actually does. Governance mainly. Legal, trademarks, runs the foundation. Actually, running a foundation is quite complicated. There's a lot of obligations, risk, there's insurance. They effectively guard the fund that funds any of the grants and any of the other activities. So the governance is a key part. The other thing that TPF provide is they're effectively the bank manager. So they look at receiving the money in, looking at grants. They have a grants committee to work out where the money goes to. And they also provide a lot of organisational support, Google some of code, and run some infrastructure. One thing that TPF is looking to do more of is provide some more leadership where it's needed, not impose it, but offer it, and provide also a kind of customer services feature for Perl generally, because there seems to be, the outside world has suggested that it doesn't know how to talk to Perl, and maybe TPF can do a better job of managing stakeholders and managing people on the outside. Outreach, standards of conduct, which of course has been quite an interesting journey of late, and things need to happen there, which we can talk about in the Q&A. A key feature is to keep Perl open and autonomous. So a lot of the other languages have corporate control, governance, ownership, all sorts of different strengths. TPF try and work hard to keep Perl independent from any one organisation as well. So if we look at what I do at TPF, I was asked to join as president. I thought I was quite an interesting choice for that because TPF being American, I've not had a great deal of engagement with the communities and not known to many, although I've been involved with Perl for 25 or so years. It's not something that I've been involved in at a frequent basis, a few LPWs and other things. And there wasn't much competition for the role as well, I'll say. It wasn't the best time for TPF, and I was coerced into the role, I think we should say. Now, there's certain things that I want to bring to this role. I think that there's a lot that we need to do, TPF specifically, and of course broadly, around Perl, so I'll talk about some of the initiatives that I like to look at and what I need to do. I used to develop Perl, and there's some people in the room who had to deal with the Perl that I developed, so I don't do that anymore. So there's a few things we need to do. Improving perception. Perception is an interesting thing because I think if you guys talk to people who work at other companies who program other languages and you say, I do Perl, there's a list of typical things that they might say. All right, so we kind of all know what that might be. So we need to look at that perception, work out how we can make that better. And when you get behind it, sometimes the complaint is this Perl's a mess. Why is it so difficult? Why is it a write-only language? But when you get into that, you work out that it's not Perl itself that's the problem. A lot of the time, it's things like the customer or the stakeholder says, make this thing happen. And Perl enables you to make that thing happen very quickly. And they say, it works, make this thing happen. And you end up on this journey. And then when they look back, they say, well, why is it like this? Well, that's kind of what you asked for, and it delivered very well. When people look at replacing Perl, and that's a conversation I've had recently with some of the guys in Amsterdam, the best thing maybe to replace Perl with is Perl, just done differently. So the problem isn't Perl. The problem is how it's implemented, how it was asked for, how it was delivered. There's challenges with retaining sponsors. TPF requires sponsors. The things that is with that money, again, it pays grants and manages the governance that I mentioned. So we do need to keep that coming, and we need to make sure we manage that. We retain and add new sponsors to our list there. There's also a skills shortage. It's challenging. People say often it's challenging to find people who can create Perl because I think sometimes the jobs around Perl are dealing with the old Perl that someone else made, not the new interesting things. So again, there's things that we can do there to make that a bit more interesting. Brand and advocacy, and I've put on my notes marketing with a small m, but it's not about trying to sell it as such. It's about how we can generate a quality brand around Perl, how people could think of Perl as a high quality choice for them for their own systems. There's no doubt it's highly capable. I think there's probably not much you can do with a computer that you probably couldn't implement with Perl. It's about how that's perceived. And then we have the supporting of the various, the Perl family, Perl 5, Perl 6, Raku, of course. So then also how TPF can better engage with UK and Europe. It's been considered very much of a, over there, the guys in the States do TPF, and it doesn't really come over here. So another reason I think why I was involved. I know there's been previous European presidents, but I'm hoping to link things up a little bit more, help people, UK and Europe, benefit more from TPF and centralise some of those things where it's going to help, where there's people who don't want to do the administration of things over here, then maybe TPF can help with some of the coordination as well. We also need to invest in some of our infrastructure and applications, and that is TPF, but also some of the other wider Perl communities and online systems. A great example was Conference Toolkit today with the 504 issues. Now, of course, it could be fixed. It's about where it sits on the priority list, and people are doing other things. So we need Perl infrastructure to be really good, and if that means that we need to spend some time doing it, and if that needs funding, that's what grants are for. So it would be good for people to see where things could be better, where we either embarrass ourselves as a community or we just don't look so good. The overall brand, I think Perl must have 15 different brands or website styles. That we don't mind because we're all used to it, but the people on the outside find it hard to understand who Perl is, what its style is, and where to go. So if you have ideas, apply for a grant. But if you are applying for a grant, you need to think about it not as a gift, but as an investment, a grant that will make things better. It's not there to solve a problem. Maybe that's the hobby or the part-time thing. Think of it as an investment, how you can improve the brand, the quality, performance, the ACTS system. If that is really valuable to the community and people value it, we should make it better and we should make it work. So any help on any of these initiatives is definitely welcome, and you can get in touch with my emails on the TPF website as well. I'll mention the community affairs team as well. Well, actually, I've just touched on expectations. So again, I don't want to labour the point here because people, I think, generally know what is expected, but there have been some negative experiences in Perl communities, and they are very damaging all round. They burn people out. There's been many people I've talked to recently who have just been exhausted by some of these non-technical related problems. So we need to work hard on that. So community affairs team. There has been an SOC that TPF have supported. It had a particular purpose, and yet it was needed. It was stretched beyond its purpose. It wasn't able to manage situations that have occurred because it wasn't set up to do those things. So we need to look at the bigger picture here. We need to look at what it is we're trying to achieve. So the community affairs team is something that we're currently working on. It's a new idea in development. The idea is it's funded, so TPF will put budget aside to make sure that the people within that team are trained and have the resources they need, that can attend conferences where they need to attend them, that the people are available if someone wants to communicate with someone, you know what your expectation is as well, and again supported by TPF. So that's really important to manage the broad, diverse team. The patron of the community affairs team possibly may well be Gloria Wall. That's currently the conversation. it's been very well received, but at the minute I'm not sharing that too far. We're in early conversations, but it looks like that's the way that's going to go as well. Messages from, I had a meeting with Larry last week. We talked about all sorts of things, Perl 5 and Perl 6, his vision and where he's going, but actually what was most, when I asked him what is the message that people need to hear, it was all around the community and the behaviour and how we can make everyone's life easier. That was his biggest wish message, is that we solve that. But he's very focused on the technical issues and the development as well going forward. So TPF needs help, it needs volunteers, all sorts of things. So if there's anything here that anyone wants to get involved with as a volunteer, then there's no shortage of things. Even down to the TPF board. I mentioned earlier, as a president, as a board member, there's a 2-year role, and I think, a month and a half in. So there will be the role of president up in a couple of years' time. If anyone's interested, get involved in the board and work your way through that. Community Action Team, if you think you want to be part of that, the intention for the team is that anyone in the Perl community should be able to recognise themselves in the Community Action Team. So if you want to put yourself forward for that as well, that would be good. Conference organisation, this is broadly, so I'm not talking about LPW, of course this worked very well, but there are all sorts of other conferences across Europe and US, and the more people who can get involved with organising it, the better. There's mentoring opportunities, sponsor nominations. If you know someone who relies on Perl, who's a big Perl user, then maybe you could nominate them as a sponsor, and TPF can talk to them and work out the details as well. The sponsors, the benefit there is that they know then Perl will be maintained, security will be managed, legally it will still continue to be usable as well. So there's a lot of things around sponsors that we need to look at. Write content, and actually there's a lot of content does get created, but maybe we can share that with the outside world as well, not just amongst ourselves. Let people know what you can do with Perl, what some problems it solves. So Q&A, I have lots of questions generally to talk about. These are the kind of things that I'm asking people, and I'm interested to hear your responses on any of these, but then I'm also interested to find out what your questions are around TPF. What is it that you want TPF to do? What does it need to do to make your lives easier and reduce some of the friction, help Perl just become better? So short presentation and a conversation for anyone who wants to talk, share your thoughts. Anyone want to start? Anyone want to answer any of these questions? Yes, please.
In my experience, I do contracts, and everyone from the Institute of Physics in Bristol, Net-a-Porter in Shepherd's Bush, Tusker up in Croxley Green. The big thing is the perception among CTOs about Perl.
Okay.
A few years ago, we're going to do Scala, and yet half their back end is still in Perl. Tusker went off and did Ruby. The IOP is going off and doing Java, but they still have this 20-year-old massive legacy lump of Perl that I spent 6 months bringing up to date. The Perl code was fantastic. The guy who wrote it is now off at headquarters in Cornwall. He did a grand job, but it was the environment. It was the operating system going from CentOS 5 to CentOS 7. Apache 1.x has been deprecated, and yada yada yada. But it's perception on CTOs. No one seems to think that Perl is strategic anymore.
Yeah.
There's Booking, there's Zoopla, half of Net-a-Porter, off doing fantastic Perl, but the head honchos don't think Perl is a right-only joke.
Yeah, and I guess the point there is it works. You know, and as it works, it's not making noise, it's not distracting people. It does its job. I assume.
You mean the fuck up?
Well, To be honest, some companies have done very well with that strategy. But then this is part of the advocacy and part of letting people know that their organisation relies on Perl. They may not have noticed. Higher up the chain, it just works. They're not spending money on it. They forget it's there. So this is where maybe nominations for sponsors, we can help them understand what it is that they rely on. If that wasn't able to be updated or wasn't available to them, the risk that their organisation is in, they need to get behind it and support it. And maybe we can help them understand the value of what they've got there.
I think it's about when Perl companies,
Brilliant. Brilliant. Okay, so when you say a cabal of companies, are you talking about the companies, the names that you mentioned, and how they may come together? Yeah. Yeah.
Their top people should get together
Yeah.
and look outwards instead of inwards. Stop moaning about the lack of people and go out and create new people.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a very good point. If we have those organisations putting their name on a training event where they can get together, get students in a room, and help them learn what they've got and how to use it, that would probably attract the new people as much as it would attract the organisations. And that's the kind of thing we need some people to help with, not only nominating these organisations that you know about, but people who are interested in helping coordinate such efforts as well.
Repeat your questions, Stuart. Any other questions?
We've got the microphone here, so.
Yeah.
It's flashing. Me, what's flashing?
Yeah.
So one of the things I've noticed in Raku and before with Perl 6 is there's a lot of actually people who appear to be quite younger than the average Perl developer who are interested in it as a language. And I know one of the arguments for the rename was that Perl as a word had a bad association, but I feel that association is actually starting to go away amongst our younger cohort. So what kind of thoughts will we got for getting them to not only get interested in Raku, which I want to make from, but also get interested in Perl? Do we have any plans for that?
Yeah. So the question is, how do we get young people involved in Raku and Perl 5, traditional Perl? Yeah. So I think the previous suggestion actually was linked directly into that, because if we could help people understand what it does already, then they might realise that it is very powerful and it works. TPF, these are the kind of things TPF could do. I think one of the things that Perl has missed, it dropped the ball on, was Raspberry Pi. It had an opportunity there. It potentially still has, but of course that has been dominated by Python, and young people are being trained in programming on Python, on Raspberry Pis. It's the de facto standard. However, the more young people who are programming on a Pi could use Perl, and if they know what that can deliver for them, that maybe you can't get out of the box in Python, you have options to bring young people through that way. Code clubs is another thing. So I have another role in Open UK, which is the UK's Open Source Industry Association, and through that we're trying to develop some UK-based open source training. There's no reason why we can't connect those up and have a Perl specialist group through there as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot of things we can do. TPF is supporting this. Anything that we think is a good idea and we share, that's global. There's no, the process will be the same. So I welcome thoughts around that, discussions, and to make things happen. We do have a fund. TPF has a fund. We just need to choose how we use it, how we invest it.
I think one of the main problems in strategic thoughts about Perl is that there's no one-fits-all strategy for Perl, because Perl is a multifaceted language which is targeting totally different groups. For example, it's good for one-liners, for regular, for shell scripting stuff, but it's also good for big applications with hundreds of modules. But you have people from all these subgroups which are discussing together which is the best strategy. And we need, on a meta level, we need this a diagnosis want to find a strategy to market Perl, we have to address that Perl has all these different faces, and we have to see which are the stakeholders which we have to address and how can we address them. For example, like saying when you are in a big company, you need a kind of Perl which is totally different without special variables, and there's this tool you can use to translate your bash-like Perl to application Perl.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I absolutely understand. So the question here is how do we help present Perl in all of its different ways of using it to different sets of people in the way that they maybe benefit from it, rather than it being just this one big block of Perl. I mean, there's lots of ways we can think about this, and I completely accept you can start with a one-liner, and some of the problems with Perl has been that people do actually start with a one-liner and end up at the end of it with some huge system and never kind of stop in the middle to re-architect it. Marketing is the key. We need to understand our audience. Marketing is always about first understanding what it is you have, and then how is it you can present that in a way that people are going to be interested in doing it. So yeah, let's get on and do that. Let's work out not everything, not try and market Perl as a solution to everything, but even just one or two places. If we have people in academia that we can talk to, let's start off with packaging messages that they might understand in their language. Why is it good for them? What are the benefits of doing it? What are the strengths? I've been talking to people about the Raku, for instance. Why is it better than one of the other new languages? There are ideas. We need more. We need to be able to explain, not say other things aren't so good. We can always throw stones at other languages, but why is Raku strong? Why is Perl 5 strong? What are those reasons? So again, get involved. If you want to be part of that, email me and let's work on it. These are the volunteer activities that we need to get together. Hi.
I hope you don't mind me asking this, but don't be modest, okay? Why did the Perl Foundation choose you?
Yeah. Why? Okay. So why was I chosen? So part of it was because I'm not so close to some of the communities, and there is politics. There's been quite a bit of politics. So I think the key reason that they were looking outside of the normal people is that they didn't want someone who was already embroiled in anything complicated or has any views or had any allegiances to any particular place. So that was important. They wanted to be less North America focused. There's a perception of that. So UK, they realised that I'm committed to open source. That, as far as I'm concerned, is the only right answer. And that also, I think, helps. I'm also involved with the UK Open Source Association. So for all these different reasons, and also because I guess, although I started as a developer a long time ago, hardware and writing Perl a long time ago, I've spent 20 years working around the business side of things, how a business needs to be organised, how you scale a business, how you grow it, how you bring management and leadership into it. And it's those business development activities, I think, is another reason. This is what how they sold it to me as to why they wanted me to join. That's what they've said.
I just had a question.
Yes.
Related to what you mentioned.
Yeah.
So you said TPF has historically had a North America kind of focus. How involved are they in organising a Perl conference there? Because it feels like on the European side they're not involved.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact details.
Yeah.
And the past 4 TPCs in Europe have basically only happened because people have stepped in and volunteered, not quite at the last minute, but it's been a part-run thing.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that is one of the things that we need to make better. It's been bumpy and complicated. People have tried hard, but they've not necessarily had the resources. TPF can help with some of that. So I need to be working with the people who've arranged those, or have them connected up, work out how TPF, this isn't about trying to take over, that's not what it's about, but it's about saying how can TPF Resources help some of those things happen better, simpler, with less resistance. So absolutely there to help and support that. I need to talk to the people. I've not yet talked to anyone specifically about the EU activities, and if anyone knows them or are them, then let's talk about that as well.
Yeah, there is actually a mailing list at the moment for the YEF, which
Right.
Dom has set up a new mailing list for
Yeah.
anybody interested in.
Fine. Hey, link me up, then I'll pick that up.
Is there any indication that you can get the funding of TPF up to a level that might make a difference?
What?
I mean, we're thinking sort of £1 million a year or something like that, which isn't much in software development terms.
So the question is, could we get TPF funding to a level that is useful? Yeah. Yeah. TPF has a fund. It has a fund that is of significance and it can use, but again, we need to invest that in order to grow the fund. So yes, absolutely. Having $1 million, of course, America, having $1 million in the bank, and knowing that every year that we regenerate that would be a target. But it's not at that level, but it is a. Yeah, it's a reasonable fund, but like I say, it does need to. There's lots of different funds. Actually, there's some complexity there. There's within TPF there must be, I think, 7 different funds, and the reason for that is that some sponsors will put money in to TPC, to the Perl conference, and someone else will put money in for Perl 6 Raku, and someone else Perl 5 core development. So there are lots of different funds, and if people quote, oh, well, there's only this much money in that fund, it may well be a particular subset of a fund rather than the overall money. So it's more complicated than it needs to be. But again, we need to be investing this fund. It shouldn't just be sitting there. It should be used, and we need to find good ways of using it. If we were sitting on no money, then there'll be a different problem. But that's not the issue. The issue is how we best use it. Okay.
I've been pleased to see in your presentation, Raku mentioned a number of times, but I was wondering, do you foresee any changes in the Perl Foundation side of management coming from the Perl 6 rename?
TPF is fully on board, so no change. There's no issue that the name has changed, that things have changed, because philosophically, psychologically, Perl 5 and Raku, we know that they came from the same place, and they're part of that same family. So there won't be any, it's not Perl anymore, we're going to dispose of it. Now, I understand that there are other people who are looking to potentially set up other foundations. There's a Raku Foundation and some other initiatives. If Raku wants to find its own way and wants to develop itself, then of course that's fine. It's not about trying to control that. On the other hand, it is difficult to run a foundation. It's complicated and it has a lot of overhead and a lot of burden. So Perl Foundation is not pushing Raku out. Perl Foundation is saying, yes, you're part of the family. What do you need?
Do you have any recommendations for how to advocate for Perl or Raku in a company that isn't currently using it?
So how would you advocate Perl or Raku in a company that's not using it? I would first discover what is the problem they're trying to solve. That's the first thing. With anything technical, that's the first question. Because it might turn out that it's not the right answer. And if it's not the right answer, the worst thing is to advocate it and then have a negative case study, as it were. If it does turn out that and I'll also add from my experience of 20 years of talking to organizations who want to onboard technology, it's often that the customer doesn't know what it is they think they're trying to do. So it's very easy to fall into the trap of starting with, here's a great tool, rather than the problem. So I would always approach it first. What is it that the customer thinks that they're trying to solve? Once we understand that, work out the strengths of what does it need, therefore what does it require, and then let's look at the language. If it turns out that Perl 5 Raku are good candidates and can offer some good benefit, some strength there, then it becomes a lot easier just to show them, well, it's the right answer for these reasons. And it's not selling or persuading, it's more just presenting, this is a really good case. And it's not just then the software. One thing is, okay, this is a very capable software, but then you could say, and of course it's not controlled by any organization, it's not going to get switched off, relicensed, it's a global community, there's a value put on Perl, 800 billion, I'm not sure what the number is, but some crazy numbers on the value of Perl. If you think about if someone's to write it and make it do these things, it's one of the most valuable languages out there. Some big businesses use it every day. So you've got lots of other reasons to support why Perl. I've put on there why Perl as one of the things, because actually that's a question I would like to ask everybody who uses Perl. Why did you start using Perl? And those are the kind of messages you can say to people. These are the reasons that all these people use Perl. Maybe you can relate to some of those reasons as well. So there's a journey to go on. It's important to get it right. It's important to not put it in somewhere that it doesn't belong. But if it does belong, then there's lots of benefits. And the community. I think Perl has got amazing community, global community like no other.
No pressure, this is my last question.
So there we go.
It ties exactly to your very last statement there, global community. And been a bunch of talk about how you in particular are moving the center away from North America into Europe. My understanding is that there's a whole other side of the world. There's a lot of programmers.
Yeah.
In Japan, so they use a lot of Ruby, but
Yeah.
I understand they also do a lot of Perl
Yeah.
and Raku, and we don't hear about it a lot because there's a bigger language barrier than there is between Europe and North America. Is there, I don't actually know the numbers, is there another, does the Perl Foundation cover, Asia? I sort of think of Japan as a bigger user, but I don't know if that's true or not. And if it does cover, are there any plans to do more there? Or if there is a separate foundation over there, is there anything around Asia?
Yes. Well, the answer is yes, and I understand there's more. I should repeat the question. Sorry. So the question is there a plan for TPF to support Asia or develop Asia for Perl? And the answer is yes. And I'm sure with the Unicode, for instance, the Unicode support of Perl and Raku, it makes a very good candidate. It enables you to do things that maybe you can't do in some other languages. Yeah, we have members on our board who are in Asia. I know that because it's very hard to get a conference where we can get everyone on. It's now very late Friday nights is when we talk because it's the only time we can get everyone together. So there is coverage there. At this point in time, I couldn't say that we are advocating getting people in the room and talking specifically about it yet. There's certainly no barrier, and yes, we should. If there's communities there, we need to get together and support them. It's a global community. So no barriers, and if there's people who are interested in helping on that, let's do it. There's an organisation, FOSS Asia, I should say, who is the Asian open source organisation, and they're absolutely huge, very big. So we've got contacts there. We could use that to find out who the Perl people are and connect it with them as well. So hopefully that's been useful. If there are other questions, I'm around for a bit if you want to ask anything. But we just need to make Perl really good, professional, make it the choice. Let's get it back to where it was. Okay?